This is Michael Kerner from Lenexa, Kansas. Albert Einstein once defined insanity as doing the same thing over and over while expecting different results. Stop believing case and death numbers that depend on a PCR test with a high or unknown cycle threshold. That is a bogus test that returns endless false positives. Never accept any PCR result without knowing the cycle threshold used in the test, and reject any result if the cycle threshold is greater than 28. Stop accepting CDC recommendations on masking, distancing, or anything else. They are driven by politics, not science. Question every statistic you hear. Check it for logic. Check it for hidden fraud. Remember that figures don't lie, but liars figure. An example of this is the statement earlier about hospitalizations from Dr. Lemaster. He did not tell us how many of those hospitalizations were from COVID or for something else like RSV. Masking has been used on and off around the nation and the world with no discernible difference in outcomes, but this time will be different, right? The citizens of this county have been subjected to horrible and senseless rules for living and working for the last 18 months. This has resulted in massive economic dislocation. It made no sense then, and it makes even less sense now. We will not comply. Don't try to make believe that all this is legal and constitutional. It was none of that. We let our government decide that it's okay to violate basic rights for an emergency. That just guarantees there'll be a never-ending train of emergencies. In this proposed order, you are targeting children. Another lesson of recent history is that they are the least susceptible to bad outcomes. If they do contract any version of COVID, they have far fewer comorbidities. The only purpose served is obedience training. If you don't want to go down in history as evil tyrants, do not vote for this nonsensical order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Haley Williams.
Ms. Williams.
Hello. Thank you so much today, commissioners. I could stand here and give you study after study and fact after fact, but I'm afraid it would be a waste of my time. Why? Because in vote after vote, you have shown yourselves not to be concerned with what science says or what the majority of parents want, but with what the very vocal minority demands. I'm concerned you don't care about the data, that the science and all the research and evidence-based information in the world couldn't change your mind. Why? The reason we are here is because you are conducting a political theater and caving and cowering to the pressures of powers that be, refusing to listen to the stakeholders in this conversation, the parents and the children. I firmly believe masks are ineffective, but I'm not going to go around and tell any other parents they can't mask their children if they want. Yet they are telling me I must mask mine. My answer today is no. Thomas Jefferson penned these words in the Declaration of Independence. Governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. This is America, and our system of government is a representative democracy. This is not a monarchy or a dictatorship, so stop acting like tyrants. You county commissioners, with all respect, have veered from your duty discharged to you by the founding documents of this nation and ultimately by God himself. You are usurping authority and dictating to parents how their children may breathe clean air. You are overstepping your bounds in mandating things that are not only outside your jurisdiction, but proven not to work. Do you know how I know masks don't work? I don't need a double-blind study to figure that out. If I can look at last year and say, today, if they had worked, we wouldn't be here today having this conversation. And if they didn't work, we shouldn't be here. We all have a role to play in preserving freedom. Yours today is to say no to the continuation of an ineffective, dangerous, and asinine mask mandate. This is unscientific, it's not based on research or data, it's rooted in fear, promoted under the guise of public health, and firmly built upon the idolatry and illusion of control. Ronald Reagan famously reminded us that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Do the right thing, and if you don't, our fight has just begun.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, would you, Miss Williams? Again, I would remind the speakers they need to state their name and address before they begin their comments. Next speaker, Linda.
Now we have Emily Coleman.
Hello, my name is Emily Coleman, and I'm from Spring Hill, Kansas. If we mandate masks today, our children will wear masks forever. For what? For a disease that children are statistically untouched by? Or for a variant that our health department can't even differentiate? Or maybe it's really for a government that wants to tax us all into poverty and dependence so that we are forced to adopt its vaccine passport and social credit score so that we can go to the grocery store. If we mandate masks today, our children will forfeit their right to intact immune systems. They will lose all right to bodily autonomy. They will be tracked and traced and scanned, and every thought they have will be evaluated for crime think. This has never been about health. Your government only wants you around so they can experiment on you while stealing your money. Don't believe me? Just ask the victims of the Tuskegee experiment. Oh wait, you can't, because they're all dead from syphilis that the government gave them. But you might still be able to find some victims kicking around from the Cutter incident, state-sanctioned sterilization, Operations Big Itch, Big Buzz, Mayday, and the countless other examples of intentional acts of violence against unsuspecting, defenseless populations by perpetrators of the state. I personally can care less what ophthalmologists, gynecologists, urologists, or PhDs who studied cows have to say about masks. The only thing our government can liberate us from is our constitutional rights and our hard-earned money, but only if we let it. So since the government can't guarantee my health, even if I give up my rights, why would I willingly give up the only right that matters, which is the one where I determine what goes into or onto my body? So I'm going with the history books on this, and I'm going to take my job to protect my children from the ravages of medical fascism, cronyism, and communism very seriously. I will never teach my children to prostrate themselves to a parasitical state that pretends that it wants what's best for the population while selling us to the highest bidder. I will never allow any of you to force my children to wear a mask, ever. Certainly not without undeniable, incontrovertible evidence that this disease even exists or that these measures save lives. And even then, I will still advocate for my child's right to breathe barefaced. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim McCabe, Lenexa. Christ be with me. At last week's meeting, Commissioner Jeff Myers disturbingly asked Public Health Director Dr. Ariola if there were plans to introduce vaccination centers into our middle schools out of convenience. Also, Shawnee Mission Schools voted to remask our elementary-aged students. Just over a year ago, my own kids watched their grandfather die alone on a Zoom call. The first recorded death from COVID in the state of Kansas. There are proven and effective measures for COVID, mitigations that were unfortunately denied to my father-in-law. How many masks does Dr. Ariola think that my father-in-law should have worn? 1, 2, 50? Ariola's office never even bothered to contact trace my infected father-in-law. The first casualty, now think about that. Why does this committee continue to put Ariola on some pedestal? Public emails have shown that Fauci, the CDC, and the NIH lied to us about the origins of this virus from the very beginning and the effectiveness of masks. If you vote in accordance with these public health tyrants to further hold our children and our community hostage, you dishonor the families of the fallen. This is no longer about health. This is about control. As of last week, my wife and I pulled our kids out of Shawnee Mission Public Schools. We're done with the masks, and we're done with the fear. As for me and my house, we serve God, and you should serve the public. By rejecting more mask mandates, rejecting experimental jabs on our children, and rejecting everything out of the mouth of Dr. Ariola.
Thank you.
This is a free state. I got 10 seconds left. You got a 99.9% survivability rate with this Delta variant. Take your masks off. You'll be okay, Ed. You'll be okay, Jeff. You'll be okay, Becky.
Your time is up. I'm
Figure it
sorry.
out.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Now we have Ryan Hawes. Ryan Hawes.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Hawes. I'm a resident of Johnson County, Overland Park, and I have 2 young school-aged children. I come today in peace to simply ask, please allow our parents to decide if their children should wear a mask or get vaccinated to go to school. Not the government, not anyone else in any position of authority. I'm not advocating for masks or no masks, vaccines or no vaccines. I'm simply advocating for the freedom of choice for each individual and each parent to choose for their child. I realize there's some opposition to freedom of choice under the guise of keeping others safe, and in order for you to make the right decision, you need our prayers. Therefore, John 8:32, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Acts 4:11-12. This Jesus is the stone that was rejected by you, the builders, which has become the cornerstone, and there is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. 1 Timothy 2:1-2. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. Proverbs 9:25 and 26. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord will be kept safe. Many seek audience with a ruler, but it is from the Lord that one gets justice. And in ending, if you remember Martin Luther, since your most serene majesty and your lordships require of me a simple, clear, and direct answer, I give this one, and it is this. Unless I'm convinced by the testimony of the Scriptures and by clear reason, for I do not trust in the county commissioners or the health department alone, since it is well known they have often erred and contradicted themselves, I am bound by the Scriptures I have quoted today. My conscience is captive to the Word of God. I cannot and will not retract anything, since it is neither safe nor right to go against conscience. So here I stand. I cannot do otherwise. God help me. Amen.
Thank you.
Now we have Michelle Henry. Michelle Henry. Yes, I did.
Miss Henry?
Michelle Henry. Then. He is coming.
Shad Thompson available?
He's coming.
Here, okay, thank you.
Hi, Shad Thompson. Apologies for being late. I'm a father of three. I've got a son in Ravenwood, daughter at West, and sorry guys, a daughter at Summit. So I've got a kind of a stake in this. I've said this last time I spoke. You know, freedom always needs to win, guys. This is personal freedom of choice is the way to go. You guys actually have an easy way out. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? And this one, follow the numbers. Just look at the math. Look at the numbers. Only the numbers. COVID is here to stay. We can't mask ourselves forever. It's not going to work. So healthy kids are like I don't know how many zeros, 0.000 chance of getting sick from this, guys, unless they have another adverse condition. Other than the states, other states in the U.S. and other countries have tried what people are proposing. Look at their numbers. Like I said, back to the numbers, not the politics. I emailed this study to you guys this last week. 10 million people in a Chinese study. Asymptomatic spread, 300 people out of 10 million. That means it doesn't happen enough to be worried about it. If you're sick, stay home until you're fever-free for 48 hours. Let's go back to how we treated the flu, which still kills more people. Or is it the COVID? Because we can't tell because the PCR test is now invalid for telling the difference between the two, per the FDA. So please understand all of our confusions, why we're here en masse to talk to you, because we're very confused because nothing makes any sense anymore. I actually talked to 3 doctors this past week. It's like, can you please send me one study, just one, showing the masks help prevent anything? And they said, we can't. And I'm like, why? It doesn't exist. If you've got it, reply to my email and let me read it. I'd love to read it. If we're truly about health, why aren't we boosting people's immune systems? Instead of having a mask on when you come to the school, why don't you hand them a vitamin D packet, vitamin C, and some zinc? That would do a lot more for them than the mask. 75% of people now with all these outbreaks are fully vaccinated. So you guys need to pick a narrative and stick to it. Bye.
Thank you.
Now we have Catherine Holohan. Catherine Holohan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Richley from Lenexa, Kansas. Thanks for having me here today on this 511th day to flatten the curve. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I'm coming to you here as a mom. It's my duty as a mom to question and research everything for my kids. The school board, the government, and board of county commissioners are not the experts on my kids. That's me. Mandates are not laws. The CDC, the school board, and you have no authority to make laws. We are entitled to our own bodily autonomy and personal responsibility for our health and ourselves. It's shameful for you to want to mask children. We see you in pictures online and out in the community without masks. How dare you try to mandate this for our kids? And to the people that say, it's just a mask, I say, okay, it's just 2 weeks. It's just till things get better. It's just for the school year. It's just a vaccine. It's just your job. Now it's just you. We cannot comply our way out of this one. The time for compliance is over. The pro-maskers say that we're selfish. Well, we've been doing this for more than a year and we haven't gotten anywhere. Masks on school children do not come without risks. I have 2 kids in school and they both have medical mask exemptions. Coming home daily with headaches, nausea, vomiting, anxiety. I took them to the doctor and he was horrified by what my kids have experienced all school year long. If it passes this time, folks, this is never going to end. Understand there's always going to be a new variant because that's what viruses do. Every school year, it's going to be just until it passes, just until flu season's over, just until spring break. No more mandates. Last year it was school, this time it's masks. Next year, I guarantee it'll be the vaccine. No more, we will not comply. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Daniel Austin. Daniel Austin.
Hi, my name is Daniel Austin. I live in Merriam, Kansas, and I wanted to pick up where I left off regarding Dr. Pamela Popper's "Here's What the Government and Schools Have Done to Children" in the Forbidden COVID-19 Chronicles. What are the consequences of high carbon dioxide levels? According to the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry, at high levels, the carbon dioxide itself can cause headaches, dizziness, nausea, and other symptoms. This could occur when exposed to levels above 5,000 ppm for many hours. Remember that the school day is 6 to 8 hours long, depending on the age of the child. This means that children were exposed to as much as 5 times the amount deemed potentially hazardous for several hours daily for several months. This explains some of the issues reported in a German study in which parents, doctors, teachers, and others were asked to enter their observations and experiences with masks into a registry. According to data reported by the parents for over 25,000 children, average time per day for mask wearing was 270 minutes per day, and negative effects reported were irritability, 60%, headache, 53%, difficulty concentrating, 50%, less happiness, 49%, reluctance to go to school, 44%, malaise, 42%, impaired learning, 38%, drowsiness or fatigue, 37%. What is most distressing about this is that public health officials had to know that not only were the masks harmful, but also completely useless for preventing the spread of any virus, including SARS-CoV-2, which measures 0.125 micrometer in size and can penetrate any surgical mask. And I see I'm running out of time here. I will pick up next Thursday.
Thank you.
Now we have Laura Klingensmith. Laura Klingensmith.
Laura Klingensmith, Stillwell, Kansas. In my opinion, this public health order for masking children 6th grade and younger is nothing short of county-sanctioned child abuse. Since this order ends on May 31st, 2022, this is no longer about stopping COVID or safety. It is merely a power play by the county. I say this because the order states a child can wear a t-shirt or towel simply wrapped around their lower face. Not a mask, but a towel. So the county admits masks do not work, because if a child can simply pull a dirty t-shirt around their face, then what does a mask do? The Kansas governor cannot issue a mandate for 9 months, so how does the county have greater authority than the governor? This order is nothing short of age discrimination, because you are targeting an age group not in danger, but only because they cannot get the vaccine. In the age group Areola wants to vaccinate, only 14 were hospitalized in the last 19 months. In these last 19 months, how many children were treated for suicide attempts? Let's see those numbers, because I am sure that number is far greater, but yet you blindly follow what Areola says without questioning this hired employee who's not even a doctor. By signing this order, the county will have masked kids for 2 school years, making this permanent, not a temporary measure. The 14th Amendment and the Kansas Supreme Court have guaranteed personal autonomy and stated parents have full authority in the upbringing of their children. Not Areola, not the county commissioners, not the school boards, just parents. So how can you violate a ruling by the Kansas Supreme Court by signing this order? And furthermore, how does the county have authority over private schools as this order applies to them? Because in the end, my child, my choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I have John Allman. John Allman.
Good morning. My name is John Allman. I'm from Olathe, Kansas. I'm here today to speak against any mask mandate for the county or for students. When 26 of 28 predictive models from the CDC can't even predict 2 weeks in advance, it's clear that they don't know what they're doing. Cherry-picking data should never be used to force mandates on masks on anyone, yet you all seem to be prepared to do just that. We've had enough. We've had enough of public health officials changing their story, lying to the public. We've had enough of members of this board saying to wear masks and then not doing it in public. We've had enough of constant changes coming out of organizations who say you either speak for science or that if you criticize them, you're against science. How many times does Dr. Fauci have to lie to this country before people stop believing him? The CDC says wear masks, then not to wear masks. Now that bastion of conservative thought, CNN announced on Tuesday that 99.999% of fully vaccinated people have not had a breakthrough case. So what's the number? At what point do we say to the people pulling our strings enough? Well, I'm telling you enough. This new fiasco about the Delta variant was kicked off by cherry-picked data. CDC was actually pretty open about it. Very small, very statistically irrelevant sample. If vaccinations work and prevent death and the severity of this disease, and they're pretty much available to anyone who wants them, obviously, except for kids, then you guys have no justification forcing masks on anyone. And by the way, if masks work, why are we here 18 months later with this problem? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Jacob Swisher. Jacob Swisher.
Good morning, Chairman Eilert, Commissioners, and fellow citizens. Jacob Swisher, and I'm at 601 North Merlin, Suite 7 in Olathe. I've spoken to this board previously on various issues. Today I'm here to speak with everyone else about this mask with our children. I respect the fact that you're charged with the public health of Johnson County, and I thank you for filling that role the last year and a half. We need to pause and address some fundamental roles that this body has grossly overreached. We have 6 school districts and thus 6 school boards that are charged with the direction, respectively, of their districts of our children. It's time to allow our school boards to make the decisions that best represents their district. Based on your own website, for individuals under 19, we have had 14 COVID cases since March of 2020, 3 hospitalized, 0 in the ICU. Hear this, 0 in the ICU. As long as I've followed county government, we have had an ongoing debate with Topeka about the continuous handing down of mandates from Topeka to Johnson County and how it affects our manpower and us financially. Inserting yourself in today's decision only screams of hypocrisy with that issue. You're here to represent the people and not dictate from on high. We have just had an election on Tuesday evening where many people spoke clearly of their opposition of individuals in leadership that are not listening. We have an election next year, and this issue will follow that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Now we have Kevin Combs. Kevin Combs.
Are we ready? Hi, my name's Kevin Combs. I'm in West Olathe, and I am a mechanical engineer who actually studied HEPA filtration. The mechanics on how masks work are common sense. When you breathe in, a proper mask will seal up tight against your face and filter out the germs. When you exhale, the germs simply blow out the sides, as you can clearly see from this experiment. Only a rigid strap can prevent that from happening. Filtration media is designed to be one directional, not for personal protection, not two directional for others. That's why filters have arrows on the side. Here in about 20 minutes, you're going to hear our health department explaining their biased, one-sided trash on their advantages to forcing masks on poor children, which I think is just to cover their own butts from liability. But will they also discuss the disadvantages of forcing children to wear masks all day? There's a statistically 0% chance that my kid will die from COVID or even be hospitalized, but there's a 100% chance that my daughter with difficulties in speech will not progress for a second year in a row if she is forced to wear a mask. Claustrophobia and other psychological issues should be addressed by a professional before you all make any motions here today. My question for you is, will there be a child psychologist here speaking? Only then can you make an informed, thoughtful, two-sided decision. The proper action here is no action. As of today, we're doing fine. Our community is healing, and parents that are concerned for their kids' safety can send them to school with an N95 mask and eye protection for almost 100% protection. Will they do it? No. It's because they look silly. And the rest of us can concentrate on our own family's concerns, which for us is speech and social development. Definitely not COVID. So we'd appreciate you staying out of our family's business and not making any motions here today that violate our family's freedom of choice.
Thank you. Thank you
Now I
very
need
much.
Andrew
Your comments are concluded.
Blackburn.
I'm
Andrew
sorry. Thank you very much.
Blackburn.
Your comments are concluded.
Not effective.
Hello, Board of
Andrew
Commissioners.
Blackburn.
My name is Andrew Blackburn. I'm from Olathe, and I have two boys, ages 6 and 4, who have been wearing masks everywhere they go for the last year and have not complained once. I don't think I need to remind you that you are not just the Board of County Commissioners, you are also the Board of Public Health, charged with ensuring the general health of the public. I will remind you, though, that your responsibility extends to the entire community, even those who are too young to vote for or against you in your next election. School boards are not looking to you for political cover. They are looking to you for guidance, because the moment you were sworn in as a county commissioner, you were also sworn in as a public health official. It is your responsibility by virtue of the office you hold, and you do not get to shrug it off just because you yourself are feeling political pressure. The possibility of school districts opting out has no significance to this conversation. This is still your responsibility. If a school board believes that a mask mandate is the right choice but feels pressure from angry anti-mask parents, they need your support. And if a school board is determined to keep masks optional, use this moment to send them a message. Show them that to do so, they'll have to not only defy the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics, but also their own Board of Public Health. If we truly cared about each other as a community, we wouldn't need mask mandates. We'd wear our masks and send our kids to school in theirs. But we have proven that we are collectively too selfish, too concerned with our own comfort and our own individual rights to make that caring choice on our own. And that's why we need a mask mandate in our schools. Please, as you cast your vote today, think about the kids and families who could be hurt if the Delta variant begins spreading through our schools a week from today. Think about the teachers and staff in our schools who have been taken for granted in every turn in this conversation. Think about families of color who have been disproportionately impacted by COVID, both nationally and here in our county. Think about the immunocompromised relatives kids could bring the virus home to if they pick it up at school. But then think about all the good that a mask mandate could do for so many in our schools and in our community. Please vote yes and give our kids the safe in-person school year they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Emily Carpenter. Emily Carpenter.
Good morning. My name is Emily Carpenter. I reside in Lenexa, Kansas. I'm a mom of 4 children, 14, 12, 9, and 3. First, I'd like to clarify, there is no state law that holds schools liable, like Greg Williams stated. I absolutely love that we start each Board of Commissioners meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I love that we all stand together with our right hand over our hearts, and we state out loud in unity, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I love that we live in an America where there is a place that laws are in place to protect our liberties and freedoms. You as a board cannot pass an order, mandate, or give recommendations that violate state law or infringe on any right protected by state law or the Kansas Constitution. I have emailed each one of you the state laws that would be in violation if you pass this health order. I absolutely believe that the health and safety of all students and teachers in Johnson County must be a priority while on school property. But again, any policy put forth before the Health Department or the Board of Commissioners must not violate state law. We must work together as a community. Our children are watching us. Let's show them how to work together as a community and protect them by upholding the freedom that so many Americans fought for and the freedom many Americans lost their lives for. Masks are medical devices. Allow each individual medical decision to be made between the student, the parent, and their own personal medical physician. By keeping masks optional, you are giving the parent the freedom to choose what is best to protect their own children. If a parent wants to send their child to school with a mask, they should have the freedom to do that. Send them with 3, 4. But if a parent chooses not to send their child a mask, they have the same level of respect, must be reciprocated. The biggest compliment you can give every parent in Johnson County is to say, these are your children. We trust you as their parents. Keeping masks optional gives everyone the freedom. Not your children, not your decision. We will not comply. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have Edward King. Edward King.
Hello, my name is Tammy Bennett, and you guys have my address. I'm here to discuss public safety. I keep hearing a lot of talk about public safety, but I want to point out that this really makes no sense when we have a border that's wide open with over 1 million people that have come across and tens of thousands that they've actually dispersed around our country that are undocumented, and we have no idea of their health status. So you expect us to believe that we're supposed to be concerned about our public health and this pandemic when they're actually spreading it across the country, and we're supposed to wear masks and get vaccines and do all these things. It makes 0 sense, and until somebody can explain that, I don't know why we should do anything that you're all telling us to do as far as public health. Second, I want to talk about testing and the release from the CDC about how the PCR tests can't even accurately distinguish between COVID and influenza viruses. So I would like to know what data we're using to explain all these cases that we supposedly have of COVID and now the Delta variant, which still can't really be tested. So where are these numbers coming from? Why should we all be afraid and running around in masks and masking our children? There will always be another variant, another outbreak, another something. Let's get the kids back to school like normal and let us live our lives without the constant nanny state and fear. Just like the scary Children's Mercy story that said the hospital was full of COVID patients, but Children's Mercy released a statement saying it was actually RSV patients. At the end of the day, it's the parents that are in charge of their children, not the government. Let the parents decide what is best for their children. My child, my choice.
Thank you.
Holly Stark. Holly Stark.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Holly Stark. I'm a resident of Overland Park, Kansas. If you vote to approve the proposed health order today, you will put all of Johnson County schools at risk for losing state funding. Our kids deserve to be treated equally, regardless of their vaccination status, and our state lawmakers agree. In May, they passed SB 159, which prohibits the Kansas Department of Education from providing funds to schools that use vaccine status to deny education, deny entry into their premises, or separate individuals by vaccine status. The proposed health order violates the spirit, purpose, and content of this law. All children 6th grade and below are denied access to the building and an education unless they wear a mask, while other children that are older enter freely. The only difference between these children are their eligibility to get a vaccine. Further, the proposed health order discusses separating children by vaccine status when 6th graders are physically separated from 7th graders. This also violates the statute. Just because our children are young does not mean they don't understand the unfair treatment. There is no logical reason why children 12 and under should be required to wear a mask in school, while outside elementary school in Johnson County, no other unvaccinated individual, adult, or even the children themselves are required to wear a mask. I urge you to vote against the health proposal today to avoid risking our school districts losing their state funding. I also urge you to vote against any further mask mandates in Johnson County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We have Matt Couch. Matt Couch.
My name is Matt Couch. I'm a resident of Overland Park, Kansas. Johnson County Board of Health Order number 001-21 does two things. First of all, it creates a new extrajudicial arm of enforcement for the county and the health department. Literally every man, woman, and child, and I do mean children because we have thousands and thousands of teenagers that work and live in our county that are facing people every day in public. And when a member of the public comes in and says, I want to come to your store, and that teenager or senior citizen that works at Home Depot or Walmart says, sir, you need to put a mask on. These people are now de facto law enforcement members of our community. They're not paid, they're not trained, they have no conflict resolution experience, they have no ability to enforce this statute which you're laying on them. As far as I know, these people haven't been deputized by the sheriff. Is the Johnson County Sheriff's Department going to provide protection at every single public facility in this county in case someone gets into trouble trying to enforce this order? Second, this health order admits two things. First of them, that masks don't work. How do I know that? It says it right on the box. Not intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection or related uses or uses for infection prevention or reduction of related uses. That's not me. This is the box telling you it doesn't work. The vaccine doesn't work. How do I know that? 74% of people in Massachusetts fully vaccinated, responsible for the outbreak. Iceland, Gibraltar, Singapore, Israel, 75 to 99% of the population vaccinated, having 2,500% increases. Finally, has anyone heard of the Lambda variant before today? Fauci announced it yesterday. COVID-19, Delta, now the Lambda. We're never getting out of this until we say no now. It has to stop today. And in honor of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, that's...
Thank you.
Now we have Brian Glenn. Brian Glenn.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's not going to stay up there. I'm hanging it up here. Never mind. So, I'm a licensed civil engineer in 5 states here in the Midwest. My views here are my own. You said my name earlier. And in Leawood, my address is on file downstairs in your tax office and will be probably for the rest of my life. I grew up and attended public schools here in the county. I'm now raising a family here. I'm today here for my kids, as well as the parents that don't feel like they can stand up and speak because they'll be ridiculed by other parents, by other people in the community. That's how bad it's gotten with this issue. I bought this respirator that I tried to hang up in the early days of the pandemic, and I observed I was the only one wearing such level of protection as the cases continue to rise throughout the last year, despite near total mask compliance. Face masks are considered medical devices, and when they're used for an intended medical purpose, such as to prevent COVID-19 exposure, they're allowed under emergency use authorization as the FDA, similar to the vaccines. The EUA indicates that face masks are used for source control only. So protection of children and adults at home is paramount. Why not make these mandated for every parent, every child in the county? They're $100. That's well within the money that the feds and state is just throwing around and printing these days. So, the majority of the current data still shows that children are far less likely than the rest of the population to be impacted or transmit the virus. But as time goes on, children continue to be negatively impacted by our response to the virus. Studies are out on the impacts of children wearing masks. These include hypoxia, headaches, difficulty concentrating, and fatigue, to name a few. Not to mention the hard-to-measure social and mental effects. The true psychological toll of the lasting 18 months in our children won't be known for the years to come. Let's not make the problem worse than the cure.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry,
ma'am. We have Jenny Betar. Jenny Betar.
Close enough. My name is Jenny Bitar. I live in Overland Park, Kansas. I am here because I respect the right of everyone in this room and every resident who isn't here today to make the choices that are best for them and for their children. Everyone here wants what they think is best for our children in our community, but parents in Johnson County are in the best position and have a right to make those decisions for their own children. The truth is, there is risk in life. It is impossible to eliminate it. COVID is just another risk. As parents, we cannot just think only about the risk of COVID. As parents, it is our job to assess and balance all the risks facing our own children and provide for them their best overall in health and well-being. Whatever parents choose, I respect their choice because it is their choice and their children. As elected commissioners, you do not have the right to force parents to accept a false choice between forced mask wearing and a reasonably normal in-person education experience in our public and private schools that we pay for. It is to provide everyone with the facts as you know them, openly and honestly. That includes being transparent when the truth is, really, is you simply just don't know. Your job ends there. Believe it or not, the greatest risk to our children right now is not the virus. The greatest risk is parents giving away our rights to decide what is best in the best interest for our own children. If you do not allow parents to make the best decisions for their children, you are overstepping, plain and simple. COVID doesn't change that fact and can no longer be used as an exception to the rule. What will be the next area in which you overstep your bounds in infiltrating the parenting of our children? What is your end game? Where does this end? We must hold the line right here, right now. We are not going away. This is our parents' right, not your right. By choosing to instate whatever you want to call this, you, commissioners, are saying that you know better than we do to raise how to raise our children. You are also saying that
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Now we have Amy Dittaker. Amy Dittaker. Do we have Amy Dittaker?
Is Amy Dedeker available?
Okay, we'll move on at this time. Jenny Cox. Jenny Cox.
Jenny Cox, Overland Park. This is in regards to masking our kids in schools and also any future mandates regarding masks. How did we get here? All of this because of a failed peer review India study or a scientific study in Massachusetts in which 5 were hospitalized and there were 0 deaths? Or were the link between the Delta variant cases and deaths, they're greatly weakened? All of this based on a lack of evidence that masks even work. The burden of proof on masks working is on you. And most importantly, knowing your guidance will likely lead to schools requiring kids to lose their freedom to breathe in an American classroom. America, where laws rule the land, not mandates. We're reasonable people that can assess their own risk and choose. Where parents are in charge of their kids. If you mandate masks for our kids and in the future any other mask mandates, over half of your voters will be furious and feel like their rights have been taken away. If you vote to leave masks optional, we assess our own risk and we leave it in and it's left in the hands of your constituents, where it should be, where it should always have been. We all win, and our kids will know what living and breathing in a free America feels like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Patty Puricelli. Patty Puricelli.
Hi, I'm from Overland Park, Kansas. My kids graduated from Blue Valley High Schools. I have a bachelor's degree in logic. I have a master's degree in motherhood. But mostly I'm board certified in being a freedom-loving American. And I am not paid for my opinion. I don't know about the other speakers. The U.S. Constitution was designed to limit control of the government. That means it was designed to limit your control over us citizens. We fought a civil war, and we are no longer subjects. In my 53 years, I can think of no greater abuse of control on American citizens' freedom than what you and other board members have imposed on the citizens of Johnson County. I know, I hear it's all about following the CDC guidelines. The CDC is a private institution who receives its largest amount of funding from medical companies. The CDC then imposes mandates to require Americans to buy things to put on our face, to buy products to inject in our body, and medicine to take. But the CDC only makes these recommendations, thankfully. Let's look at what else, the CDC recommends that I don't listen to. Just yesterday, I ate my eggs over easy. I ate oysters at lunch. I had a Caesar salad and a steak, and I ordered it rare. All those violate CDC guidelines too. This might be a slippery slope, right? Because, what's next? Well, the other day, the Center for Disease Control said that I might face 1 year in jail if I evict a tenant that is not paying my rent of rental income. It stops with you. I urge you to choose freedom. If government can restrict the freedoms in the face of an emergency, there will always be an emergency. Choose freedom for my face and let me eat rare steak.